Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Now that Bitcoin is broken out of its descending resistance, this sets us up for the next leg up into this cycle. We've talked extensively about how as long as 25k holds and once we're able to actually get outside this short-term descending resistance, this spells the next move upwards of $40,000 and $50,000 per Bitcoin. I still firmly believe that that's the case. We are seeing a pullback, but this is what's to be expected after a major breakout. So for today's video, I'm going to be breaking down every single one of our charts through the total market cap, the total altcoin market cap, so that we know exactly what the rest of the markets are showing us, how the altcoins are going to hold up throughout this, and if we actually are going to end up seeing some major outperformance and an alt season running over the next couple months. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, here we are to start off today's video. Now in yesterday's video we talked about how we had finally broken out of descending resistance and we had finally reversed from this short-term downtrend. Now this is coming right after we had successfully retested 25k for about the 50th time now over the last 200 days approximately. So we can see that even after we had this massive sell-off, we were unable to actually break down from 25k once again, and then once we were unable to break down from 25k, we actually broke out of the downtrend entirely. So there's more reason to be bullish during these times. Just as a basic momentum trader, it's super easy to follow along. We know that once this sell-off happened, we landed right back onto major trending support, and then after we did that, is when we saw the breakout of our short-term downtrend. So we've had two different confirmations inside of our bullish thesis. Not only did we retest 25k and hold it as support, but we also broke out of the downtrend. And that was exactly what we needed to see. And so for all of the people that I saw in the comments that were saying, oh, we're already selling off, you know, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, at the end of the day, it's always the most irrational people, the most overly emotional people that simply just have no idea what they're doing. The market could be breaking out. We could be seeing a move all the way back up here, and then once we started pulling back, these same people would be saying that, oh, we're going to 10k. And that's just what we're going to see every single time, especially as we're in the early part of the cycle. Now, I say this because I see a lot of people that are starting to get a little insecure. Not so much the people that were already bearish from before, but the people that haven't really been around for many cycles, the ones that, you know, are pretty fresh inside of their investing experience in crypto. And so the reason why I like to play things through levels, through resistance levels and whatnot, is because of the fact it is really an easy way to identify the current direction and the momentum that the market's going to take. We know that we've been sitting on support of 25k, and we know that this was really our first resistance level that we had to clear. Not only did we break out of that, but we've successfully retested that 2 different times, and you could say, 10 different times based off of the amount of wicks and stuff. So we can see that the bears have had every opportunity of breaking down below this 25k level, yet every single time they've tried, it has resulted in an immediate buyback. So the momentum already should be confirmation enough that 25k is support. So now the question comes, are we going to be able to finally get the breakout? Well, as you guys can tell, not only did we retest 25k as support, but we broke out of that short-term downtrend. So you're looking at almost 80 days worth of consolidation below this descending resistance. So for us to finally be breaking outside of that, that gives us all the confirmation in the world as far as where the short-term trend is headed. Now, one of the key things that you're going to see inside of a breakout, especially kind of in the early point of a new bull trend, and this can, be applied inside of a bear trend or a bull trend, but what we've been seeing since the end of the year has basically just been us making our very first uptrend. This is the first higher highs and higher lows of the trend, and so we know that we're at the beginning of a new bull cycle. We also had our 4-year cycle low happening back here at November of 2022. Now, one of the things that you guys need to understand is, especially in the early stages of a new bull trend when there's still a lot of sell pressure, whenever we see breakouts of a descending resistance, one of the most common things you're going to see is for the entirety of that move to be retraced, and then for us to actually have to come back down and retest that descending resistance as new support. And this is something that you're going to see oftentimes. Sometimes this means we can see a lower low, and if you guys need to see an example of what that looks like, we can actually just look at our bear market. Inside of the bear market, we successfully broke out of descending resistance right before the FTX collapse. And then we came back down and retested that as support during the FTX collapse. And so sometimes a breakout can hold support and just simply hold on to that breakout and then continue up. Or sometimes you see a lower low and a retest of that descending resistance before we go up. It's the point I'm trying to make here is during a breakout, it's to be expected that the entirety of that move is going to get retraced, even if it only fully retraces or potentially makes a lower low to retest the downtrend. We see this happen all the time. And so for us to actually be pulling back right here, it's really not that crazy. And it's to be expected inside of any sort of major breakout. We had the descending resistance. We broke out of our descending resistance after successfully holding 25K support. And so for this to be kind of pulling back here, it's really not that crazy. And we could see this thing come back down a little bit lower still before that's over. But the point I'm trying to make here is we broke out of descending resistance and we successfully held 25K. So all of our major momentum indicators, everything we were watching for, needed to actually happen in this way, and it has. And so, you know, the bearish thesis would basically be if this thing sells back down, comes back down onto contact with, you know, probably $26,200. And then from here, we come all the way back down to around the 25K level. If we end up coming back within descending resistance, then this entire move would basically be deviation. But until that happens, what we're looking at is a successful breakout. And kind of one of the reasons I'm leaning towards a breakout is when we come over here and look at the total market cap, the total market cap looks really good. It looks very much bullish. And this is kind of going to factor in altcoins as well, because when we're looking at Bitcoin, we're only looking at Bitcoin against the dollar. When we're looking at the total market cap, we're looking at all cryptos combined. So altcoins are going to move the market in their own way. Sometimes they underperform Bitcoin, sometimes they outperform Bitcoin. Now, inside of this market, we've actually been holding a breakout for a while. And this is something I talked to you guys about inside of some of my more recent videos, was how when we were at this point here, I said how we were actually out of descending resistance. The question was going to be whether we ended up holding that as support or whether that move becomes deviation, right? And obviously we didn't get deviation because we successfully retested that, and then we got another high. And as it stands right now, this sell-off is taking us right back onto support of that prior high. So all of the people that are getting bearish on support are the same people that end up FOMO buying at resistance. And I have a lot of people that have kind of come into my inbox on Discord, have also DM'd me on Twitter, and they've kind of been asking me my thoughts. You know, they see some of these people making these points and conclusions, and they've more or less just asked me to reiterate what my thoughts were. And so for today's video, that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is help to show you guys the bigger picture trend. In the total market cap, I've told you guys a lot about how inside of Bitcoin USD, it might not give us confirmation. It might, you know, be a little bit iffy one way or another. But when we come over here and look at the total market cap, we can see that it gives us a little bit more indication as to where Bitcoin's going to go. And what I mean by that is notice how at this descending resistance, when we were breaking out of it for the first time and retesting it here and here, Bitcoin wasn't even outside of its descending resistance. We rejected off descending resistance and we were retesting the mid-range point right there. So that was what gave me confirmation that Bitcoin was most likely going to take another leg up, was seeing how the total market cap already had broken out. So we're seeing two breakouts happening. The total market cap's actually leading Bitcoin. And if we come over here and look at the altcoins, we're pretty much in that exact same situation. Now, inside of the altcoins, we broke out first, and it was actually this breakout here that is the reason the total market cap broke out here, and all of these were actually leading. It was the altcoins that were leading the breakout because Bitcoin USD was still below resistance. And so I was drawing that and pointing it out to you guys just simply to help you guys remember that in the short term, if we see a trend change happening in the total market cap, usually that means Bitcoin's going to follow, and that's exactly what happened. Altcoins held better support, they broke out, and they're currently retesting their high as support as well. So every single reason to be bullish has been given. On the bigger time frames, you know, if we come out here, we can see that when we made this lower low happening after the FTX collapse, this was a major bullish divergence that was taking place on the OBV. And anytime you see such a big bullish divergence like this, it oftentimes signals the bottom. And that's exactly what happened. And now we've successfully retested that. And now And now we've actually started maintaining ascending support. And so lower lows, lower highs, this has been the first time that we've maintained higher highs and higher lows. And we've done this a couple different times. Not only did we do it here, but then this high is also maintaining a higher high. So we can see the early stages of a support floor, right? And not only that, but the momentum indicators are showing us a reversal. You don't normally see such a big bullish divergence happening without being a major bottom. And that's going to be the case when we're zooming out here. We can see that this entire support floor is taking place right on support of the prior all-time highs of the last cycle. It's even more reason to be bullish. And so as there's people that are sitting here drawing this as being some type of, consolidation before we break down and make another lower low, it's always the people that think this that never end up buying the bear market bottom. They never end up accumulating at the prime time, and then you're going to see these same people talking about how bullish they are when the market starts going up. And so we just have to remember, guys, that during this period, you're going to see a lot of differing opinions. You're going to see a lot of people that are on the fence, a lot of people that are going to talk bullish one day and then talk bearish the next day. But what we know on the bigger time frames is that the market has really never looked more bullish. When we come out here and we zoom out, we can see that we've maintained support inside of this low for months and months at this point. If we come down here and actually get a date tool, this entire consolidation is currently almost 500 days worth of a consolidation. And if we come over here and look at the last bear market bottom for these altcoins, it was pretty much the same point when we started breaking out. So from peak low to peak low was 455 days. We've currently over surpassed that, and we're sitting at nearly 500 days. If we come to the same time frame, 476, that was pretty much right after we successfully held this low and started the first stages of a breakout. And so all of what we're seeing right now is pretty customary of all of our bear market bottoms. The length of time that we've spent, the fact that we did have this major bullish divergence, and this is also taking place on a weekly time frame as well, guys. This was the low. Peak low happened in June, and we've only ever maintained higher highs and higher lows, even as the market made a lower low going into FTX. That happening on a weekly time frame on the OBV and the daily time frame, it gives us multiple different data points of confirmation inside of the momentum. If the momentum is showing that we're uptrending, and it even held a higher high, whereas the market made a lower low during FTX. To me, that just gives us so much more confidence in holding through the length of this and really focusing in on the big picture trend. Because like I said, guys, we've maintained higher highs and higher lows for a pretty significant period of time now at this point. We're currently sitting at 290 days about worth of us actually uptrending. Because keep in mind, this was still bear market stuff. This was still a lower low. But ever since December and the end of the year, we've only ever maintained higher highs and higher lows. And every single one of these descending resistances has ultimately been broken from. So there's just so many more reasons to be bullish during these times than there is bearish. I mean, we've seen every single thing that we needed to see as far as Bitcoin goes. Not only have we retested this 25K level, but we've broken from that descending resistance that we held below for almost 80 days. The total market cap gave us the early indication of that. And the total market cap, although it's not necessarily sitting on top of its support floor, kind of like how Bitcoin is, it's still in, roughly the same point as far as its Elliott wave count. And this is what's given me a lot of confidence that we're going to actually end up holding this, was the fact that we have 5 waves up. We saw a little tiny ABC correction here. And then this most recent move here is looking more and more like an impulse. And kind of what we're seeing inside of, Chainlink, for example, is us confirming that we're most likely going to be taking that next leg up. And this is something I talked to you guys about pretty much when we were back down in here and we were first retesting it. When we're looking at certain altcoins, this last move is nothing but an impulse. We can see clear Elliott wave structure all the way up, 5 waves up, ABC correction back down, and we've successfully held that. So even if we pull back even more, which is probably likely, we probably get a low back down to about $6.70. Even with that, we're in the early stages of these impulses. Throughout this entire move here for Chainlink, we were never really impulsing. We were consolidating inside of this channel, right? None of this was Elliott wave structure. This is all just consolidation inside of a range. This looked like it was going to actually be an impulse followed by an expanded flat ABC. But the problem came in the fact that we made a lower low, right? That was a lower low below the beginning of the impulse. So that can't be an Elliott wave. Now, we did get our first Elliott wave right in here. After the false breakdown of this range, we ended up getting that impulse. And then after the C wave, we ended up holding support. And so we've only seen, in some of the better altcoins, we've only seen one impulse taking place here. And so inside of the total market cap, when we're zooming out, some of these markets have made an impulse with Bitcoin, because keep in mind, this was the first impulse. And we did hold support in here. But then we saw this secondary impulse here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we saw an A, B, and C. So we actually saw two different impulses. We saw wave 1, and then a wave 2 correction. That completed wave 1. And then this was a wave 1 of 3. Inside of that move was the first time certain altcoins ended up making an impulse, which tells me that most likely this is leading us to that next major blow off top, because it was in the same way going into the last cycle. If we come down in here, altcoins underperformed, and then they outperformed right here at the very tail end of that impulse. What we're at right now is pretty much the same thing in my eyes. They've underperformed inside of this entire move. And then during this little one here is where we finally started to see certain altcoins resurge, make a new high, finally start their impulses. And this is only a wave 1 of 3. So we'll have wave 1, wave 3, and then wave 5. And that's what's coming inside of this next move. And this is really where I believe the altcoins are going to shine the most. You know, Bitcoin is most likely going to outperform, at least in the short term, kind of like it has. But the fact that we're seeing certain altcoins starting the early stages of a breakout, and looking at the total altcoin market cap, the altcoin total market cap has only made one. The total market cap for altcoins has only made a one wave impulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That was our first impulse for the altcoins. A, B, and C. And then after that, we ended up getting our next wave 1 of 3, right? And that was here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A, B, C. So all we're seeing right now is the earliest stages of impulses. It's not, unheard of for these to basically fully retrace the impulse, which is exactly what we saw here. They came all the way back down, almost fully retraced the beginning of wave 1 and wave 2. And then even in this most secondary impulse, we pretty much almost fully retraced it again. And that's going to be expected at the beginning of a new trend. And that's going to be expected during breakouts as well. So just be aware of these things. Just remember, all we're really doing is retesting the prior highs. All we've done is successfully held support and broken from our downtrend. Altcoins and Bitcoin combined have already started doing this before Bitcoin did. Altcoins, were kind of the early indication that maybe Bitcoin was going to break out as well. And so we're just doing nothing but holding support, making higher highs and higher lows, and just every breakout, although it's been slow, although we haven't had much movement for the most part, I do believe that we're kind of at the ending stages before this market starts to break out again. And once we get above the highs, that's where I think we're going to see a nice big move. Most likely altcoin total market cap ends up at about 500 billion before the top. Total market cap probably ends up closer to about 1.8 trillion to about 1.6 trillion. And Bitcoin for me is going to 40 and 50K. Really, my primary target's 50K. We've successfully held this 25K level. As long as this is actually a breakout and we end up finding support relatively close in here, I do believe that that takes us to this final impulse to wrap out our first impulse of the new cycle. So anyways, guys, if you found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. If you guys want to join the Discord server, see what I'm investing in, how I'm positioning myself going into this next bull run, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. Thank you guys so much for the support. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.